goal, Quishbilly Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
It's business time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the warm-up episode 35. The season's start is just days away, and like a kid at Christmas, we can't wait to unwrap the present that is an opening league match against Derby County. Joining me, your host, Brady Frost, to preview the encounter at Pride Park is my co-host, Josh Phillips, who is so excited for this match that he's actually recording this podcast while he's on holiday. How are you, Josh?
Very well, mate. Very well. Yeah, a bit of dedication, but you know, nice to have a little break from the sun, isn't it? And what a better way to do it than to talk about Huddersfield Town v Derby.
100%. We haven't got a guest this week, but we like to play a little game when we do have a guest, but we're going to tweak it slightly this week. But it's called Trash Talk. So for the listeners who didn't get a chance to listen to the Sheffield Wednesday preview, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, so normally it'll be yourself and the guest doing it's an auction style game. So I'll set a topic. So last week we had how many Sheffield Wednesday managers since 2010 can you name? And then you and Matt had a little auction. You said you started on 3, he said 4, 5, etc. And then you call the other person out when you say, all right, I don't think you can name 5 in 30 seconds. And then that person has to then try and name the number that they said they could do. However, this week, as we don't have a guest, I'm going to set a challenge for you and also for the listeners to play along with at home. And the topic is how many players can you name who have played for both Huddersfield Town and Derby County in 30 seconds? And I'm going to set the bar. I think par for this hole is going to be 5. So I'm going to set the timer and you will have 30 seconds. I'm giving you a bit of thinking time here to name as many players to have played for Huddersfield Town and Derby County as you can in 30 seconds. You ready?
Oh, no, I don't think I'm gonna get 5, mate. I'm having a proper blank, but let's do it.
I think you'll get more than one.
I think I'll get more than 1. Yeah.
Okay. Right. We'll see how you get on. So your time starts now.
Dwayne Holmes.
Correct.
Scott Malone.
Correct.
Does Stearman count? Richard Stearman? Is he not technically signed?
We'll go Stewards Inquiry on that one. Keep going.
Okay.
10 seconds.
I'm having a proper mind blank. Nah, I ain't got anything.
Screaming at home.
Yeah, this is bad. I'm sorry.
All right. That's
got nothing.
Things up. So how many did you name?
Got
2.
2.
Two and
got nothing left.
2.5.
Yeah.
Stearman, is he signing for Derby? Is he?
He's on trial, so I don't know if it counts.
Well, I'll be very lenient and give you that.
All right, so 3. Well,
bad. You said Dwayne Holmes, didn't you?
Did, yeah.
You said Ben Hamer?
Oh no, didn't.
You say
that.
Richard Keogh?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, this is terrible.
Theo Robinson.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Theo, yeah.
Scott Malone, you said. Jacob Butterfield, John Stead, Kevin Kilbane.
Stead, yeah.
They're the ones I've got written down. I'm sure there's many more. But they're the ones that I could remember and ones that I've got off the internet. So I'm afraid, mate, you've failed in your task to name 5. Disappointing.
It's not good with this reputation as a fraud. I think I've already been called a fraud twice here, so this isn't good.
I feel like I've stitched you up here.
No, it's all right. It's it's good to know that you don't tell me the games before, so I can just fail miserably. That must be fun to listen to.
Exactly. It's not just an entertainment; it's an education.
Spot on. So I'll tell you what. We'll move on to players I do know who play for Derby, and we always pick a key player here. So have you picked a key player for Derby? I think we normally do a scene setter, but obviously because it's the first game of the season, we're not really going to do that. But I think it's, to all the listeners, I think it's pretty clear Derby aren't in a good way at the moment. There's even talk about them not having enough players for this team for this game on Saturday. So in terms of key players, there's not many to choose from because there's not many you can in general. But Josh, what is key Derby?
Well, as you say, it's tricky, given we don't know who's going to be playing for them. But two that have definitely got on board are Colin Kazim-Richards, who, he's always a threat. He's not going to be quiet during Saturday's game. You're going to notice him. He's going to be buzzing about. He's not got the best goal scoring record, but he's a trier, and I think he's one to watch. But I think the most talented player on the books is still Tom Lawrence. I know he's gone off the boil a bit last season or two, but he's a quality player. He's got that eye for goal, which we saw on the opening day a couple of seasons ago against Derby when he tore us apart, and he's still got the ability to do that on his day. It's just a question of, is he going to recover from this the setback he's had the last season or two of loss of form, and his career's not gone the way he would have hoped it would. But on the other hand, he's still got time to turn it around. He's still young enough. He's only 27. So I'd say of the players that they've got that will definitely be playing on Saturday, I think he's the most talented one, and he's the one to watch for Town.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. He was my key player. He's their captain now as well. He's of interest to West Brom, but I don't think that move's going to happen before the game on Saturday. I don't think Derby can allow it really for their sake, but at the moment. But good player. Obviously, I'm sure fans will remember. I want to prove my knowledge here. First game back after we were relegated from the Premier League, 2-1. Tom Lawrence got both goals. I remember it because Tommy Elphick, with his interesting looping chest, just hitting it straight up into the air, and Derby basically scored. Yeah, bit of a weird one. I don't think using your chest in football always works out the best. But anyway. He's obviously Town have seen what he can do against them before, and like you say, there's Derby a lot of trouble on and off the field at the moment, and he is the one to watch. I think it's fair to say. But we'll move on to Town key players. We have more to choose from in this, Josh. So who did you pick for Town for the one to watch, and you think he'll do good in this game?
Well, Town's key player for this game, it's a tricky one. I think Dwayne Holmes will be up for it, up against Wayne Rooney, who he made, neither of them they made quiet that they didn't have the best working relationship. Mm-hmm. So he was one that I considered. I think he'll have a good game. Elsewhere, you're looking at Harry Toffolo. He scored at Derby a couple of years ago, so he's got good memories in that ground. But I think for me, it depends if he plays Lee Nichols. So for that reason, I'm not going to go for Lee Nichols. So I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for Dwayne Holmes. I think it's his time. He seems to have this right wing spot pretty settled, and I think he can make an impact in this game against his old club. As we said, point to prove. I think he'll be bang up for it, and I can see him creating a fair bit. I was going to go for Lewis O'Brien. Hopefully, he's still here come Saturday, and I'm sure he'll have another great game in midfield if he is here. But yeah, I think for me, I'm going to go for Dwayne Holmes to sting his former club.
Lovely stuff. I think that's a good pick. You talked about Nichols there earlier. I think I saw in the Examiner, Carlos kind of confirmed that Nichols is going to be the number one for this game.
All right.
So what are your thoughts to that, really? I know you've said you're not the biggest fan of Schofield, but yeah, and we saw he obviously saved 2 penalties in the shootout against Wednesday. Are you pleased with that decision?
Yeah, I would say I am pleased with that. Nothing. I'm not going to sit here and slag off Ryan Schofield. He's only 21 years old, which is still very young for a goalkeeper. I think really, although it's good that we gave him an opportunity last year for that number one shirt. Is it fair to him in long term, because he's potentially scarred himself? He's picked up a few scars, and although the fans' opinion doesn't really matter, but there'll be more pressure on him because of that, because the fans see him as a little bit fragile, especially with a high ball. Would it have been better for him to go out on loan and get those mistakes out of his system? I know he's been out on loan before, but another loan to further his development, as we've seen with Romani Edmonds-Green today going to Rotherham. Would it have been better for him to go to somewhere like that, a team in League One? For me, yes. I don't think it was the right decision to play him at the back end of last season. And having brought in Lee Nichols, from what I've seen of him in the friendlies, he looks assured. It's funny how things work out, isn't it? The game on Sunday going to penalty shootout and him saving 2. That's certainly not hindered his cause, has it, in becoming number one? So it's funny, things like that sometimes play out, and it means you go for one keeper over another. So I think for me, yes, Nichols, get him in. But Schofield as number 2, is that not hindering his development as well? Just sat there not playing first team games. Would we not be better loaning him out and getting in another experienced second choice keeper to warm the bench? For me, yes. But I think Carlos has said he wants 2 number ones, 2 potential number ones, but I'm not a fan of that. I like to have, particularly in the goalkeeper position anyway, I like to have a 1 and 2. So for me, yes, I would start Nichols. I think that's the right decision. It's his shirt to lose. And I would, as I say, loan out Schofield. But if not, Nichols might make a few mistakes or get injured, and then Schofield's got another chance. But for me, yes, I'm happy with Nichols as first choice starting on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what I would say about Schofield, obviously people who listened to this last season, there was a period where Matt and I felt it would have been better if he went out of the team for a bit. But if you look at what happened, obviously Hamer left to go to Swansea. We brought in Lutweiler, who didn't play, and Joel Pereira, when he did come in to play 2 games and conceded 11 goals. So he wasn't really challenging. I agree with what you mentioned about Edmonds-Green. If Edmonds-Green isn't going to be, I know we're kind of switching players here, but if Edmonds-Green isn't going to be a first choice, then I completely agree. It makes sense for him to go to a League One team in Rotherham, who, let's be honest, weren't a million miles off from us, to be a starter for them. I think it's a bit different with Schofield, though, just because, like you say, Carlos has said, he's kind of got 2 number ones. Now, I agree with you, can debate about that, whether that's a good thing, but you look at them, I know we've said Schofield needs to improve in areas, he's young, but, particularly catching crosses and stuff like that. I think it's good for him, at this moment, obviously at this shaky start, and I think if he is going to stick around, he will get opportunities. I think, he might not play every game, but he will get opportunities. And I think to have a proper competitor in Nichols, he's got something to work for, like you say. I think in the best teams, you do kind of have a set number one, but it's good to know you always have someone to step up. And, I wouldn't rule out Schofield playing some games in the league this season, and maybe, this is a challenge for him to prove in training and, prove when he does get the nod that he can step up. So it'll be interesting, but I agree with you. I think Nichols, based on his performance in the Cup, deserves to start. And again, I suppose it's a nice situation for Town to have players who can come in if Nichols goes through a bad patch. So
the concept of having 2 number ones, though. Okay, one of them's going to start all the Cup games, as many Cup games as we have, and then the other one, if you drop a goalkeeper, it's got to be for a good reason, because it's unlike any other position. It's like if you drop the goalkeeper, it's like, well, he's done something seriously wrong. He's made a big mistake, and you're punishing him for that. Although it's hard not to think like that, especially as the goalkeeper. As much as you say it's not a big thing. We just have two number ones. We're going to come in and out of the team. But to drop a goalkeeper is still, for me, it's quite a big thing, which is why I don't like the concept of having two number ones. But if he is going to go that way, then I'm happy to have Schofield and Nichols vying for that position.
We will see, mate. We will see. It's a game of opinions, isn't it? We were talking about key players here. We talked about the goalkeeper a lot, but I actually did pick Lewis O'Brien for my key player. I think he'll play this game. We saw he had a good game with Mr. Marcelo Bielsa watching in the stands on Sunday. To me, I think what kind of interested me, which maybe we didn't see so much last season, was in that Wednesday game, he was quite forward, harrying and hustling opponents, winning the ball back. And I do think that's one of his good qualities. And we probably didn't see a lot of that last season, but it was encouraging to see it in this game. And, when Lewis O'Brien is on form, I think he's, a great player. That's why he's linked with Leeds. And I wonder, we'll see what happens in the window. It's kind of clear there is interest in him from Leeds United. We can probably talk about when he moves or if he moves another time. But, I think this is another game to show why there's such interest in him. And I can see him having a good game in this, particularly if Derby are, a bit patched up. This is a game we could really put a stamp on things in midfield. So we've both gone for midfielders, / wingers, which is interesting. So we'll see how it plays out, mate. But we will move on to return to the Mac. So, you mentioned a lot of former Town players in the trash talk that I did terrible there. Is there any former Town player you bring back for this game? Is it someone who's played for Town and Derby?
It's not actually. It's not Theo, but it is another striker.
Okay.
I've gone for the striker position because I feel like it's not the weakest position in the team, but it's a part of the team where I feel we could do with another player up there. Someone who's a bit more has the dynamism and the goals. You've got Campbell, who's going to put the work rate in. Ward, who's his link-up play is pretty nice. And you got Rhodes, who's a finisher. But I think the all-round package would be nice. I'm going for someone who I have said before last season, but we have started a clean slate this season. With the return to Max, I'm going to go for James Vaughan again.
Oh, lovely.
I was a fan of his, especially when he first came to Town. I thought he had a bit of everything, really. And I think playing in this system, I think would really suit him. Up front on his own. Although he did, when he was at Town the first time, at the start he was playing sort of with Beckford, wasn't he? But I think he's well capable of playing up front on his own. He could lead that line. I think he'd be a good foil for particularly Karoma coming off the left. And I think he'd put a shift in and he'd probably get a goal or two. So I go for James Vaughan.
I've checked my notes. Got to down, mate. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to piggyback on what you said. And I picked him last season. And to be fair, saved us from relegation. And we are predicted for relegation by quite a lot of teams. Jermaine Beckford, really good for us when he joined, was a finisher. Rhodes and Ward are, seen as the finishers in the club, but Beckford, I feel Town fans could rely on him when he did play for us. And obviously, won't talk about the other team he played for, but, he was a good finisher there. So I would pick Jermaine Beckford. But that's quite a good classic striker shootout there. Be interested to see who comes out the winner in that poll.
Yeah, I like Beckford. Yeah, he scored some key goals for us, didn't he? I don't think we saw the best of him though. I felt like we didn't get a full season out of him, but when he did play, he was very good.
No, I agree. I think what I'm saying as well is don't want to go with the big guns early. We're not going to do a Matt and drop Aaron Moy on day one in a cup game. It needs to be staggered. The big guns will come out.
Yeah, that's just that's too gung ho, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too keen. It's it's a false start. Maybe you could clash, but anyway, but we are going to now look at the view from the other side. So spoke to Justin Peach. So Justin, you might have heard in our season preview part 2 in the media interviews. So Justin is from the Championship specific podcast, The Second Tier. He's a Derby fan. God bless him, not having a good time at the moment. And here's what he had to say ahead of the game. So hi Justin, thanks for coming on. So my first question is, you've predicted Derby to finish 24th in the league on the Second Tier podcast, which is hard to argue with given all the kind of trouble going on at the club. There seems to be breaking news every day. For those who haven't been keeping up to date with Derby, can you briefly summarise what's been going on at the club?
I'd need a fair few hours to summarise, but to really keep it quite general, Mel Morris has simply ran the club into the ground. It's quite a shame, really, because he obviously put his money into the club to get us into the Premier League, but it was done without any strategy whatsoever. It was just buy expensive players and hope for the best, and that really isn't the right way to go about it, and we're paying for it now. There's obviously the EFL cases against Derby that have really harmed us. We've got the transfer embargo at the moment because we haven't paid our taxes and we haven't submitted our accounts, so we can't actually sign anybody, and we're left with absolutely no players at all. So that's really as brief a summary as I can give you at the moment.
As a fan, how are you feeling about Derby ahead of the new season?
I'm quite apprehensive of the new season, mainly because I'm not apprehensive actually, probably a little bit worried, mainly because we just don't know what's happening. We haven't got a clue. We've only just had season ticket information in the last week, which, well, it's a week ahead of the game with you guys, and that really is not good enough for a professional club, let alone a club in the second tier of English football. So everything's just not great. But I think I'm just looking forward to getting back and watching Derby. It's a family affair for me. I've been going with my dad for a long time, so it's just good to be back. But I don't know how long that feeling will last. Might last 5 minutes on Saturday if you guys go 1-0 up pretty early. There's just a lot of worry and angst amongst the supporters, mainly because we have no idea what's happening behind the scenes, because the club simply have just gone into hiding.
Do you think Wayne Rooney is the right man to lead Derby based on what you've seen since he's been in charge?
Wayne Rooney is an interesting debate. I don't think he's the right man to lead Derby, mainly because he just doesn't have the experience. I think experience in this situation is important. I can imagine if Derby had someone like Neil Warnock, a big character, big personality, an experienced man, they'd have a half a chance of getting out of this situation. But they have a novice in charge, and we saw the form they went, or they had last season. It wasn't good at all. But there have been spells where we've looked very, very functional, very, very good. He has missed key players. Bielik getting injured so early in his tenure did not help things, and the inability to bring players in that January, soon after Rooney was appointed permanently, really did not help at all. So he has had a lot go against him, even more so now. But for me, I don't think he's the right man, but I will get behind him because he hasn't had a chance that any other manager might have.
So at the moment, it's not clear whether you can sign players, but you've had a few familiar names in trialists, obviously Richard Stearman, who played for us previously. Are there any players from those trialists that you've been particularly impressed with?
Yeah, you're quite right. We can't sign anyone at the moment. There's still a lot of legal hoops to jump over, which is not ideal. We're just days away from the start of the season. But as you say, we've had some big names on trial, the likes of Phil Jagielka, Ravel Morrison, Championship stalwarts in Sam Boldock and Sonny Aluko. They've been on trial as well, and Richard Stearman. I think the one player I've been pleasantly surprised with actually is Ravel Morrison. I think the way he's taken to playing has been quite it's been quite nice to see, because I think he's been unfairly labelled a troublesome player, and that's not really the case. I read an article actually that he's just been misunderstood, and he showed his quality in games, which is really, really, really good. And the likes of Phil Jagielka and Curtis Davis. Curtis Davis obviously was a Derby player last season, but isn't at the minute because he was actually released, but he's back on trial or training with the club with a view to, well, not a view, he will get a contract. It's just when we can offer it him. But the likes of Curtis Davis and Phil Jagielka, really old heads at the centre of the park or the centre of defence, that will certainly help in a relegation battle.
Can you tell me how Derby fans are feeling about this opening league game? Is it a distraction from the off-the-field issues, or is it a match that you're concerned about?
Yeah, Derby fans are feeling quite. Trying to find the right word, really. There's a bit of excitement in the air just to get back into the ground, but there's also this just anger and frustration that the club just hasn't acknowledged any of the situation that's happening. It's been smoke and mirrors from Stephen Pearce and Mel Morris, the two at the top of the club, and it's been just frustrating and hard to really put up with. And I think they've gotten off quite lightly, really. I think Derby fans have been quite polite in a way, but it hasn't helped anything, and it is serving as a bit of a distraction because I can't imagine how long it will be before the fans start to turn against the club.
So moving on to the on-the-field action, what are you expecting from the game against Huddersfield?
I'm expecting a tight game. I think in Derby's current situation, nothing has been lifted. Wayne Rooney is expecting signings to be made in the next 48 hours, but we've heard that line before. But if we're going to have to play kids, I can imagine a pretty significant result against us, shall we say? But if we can get players in, I imagine a bit of a close game because I think Huddersfield might struggle in parts this season. But saying that, they had a good start to the season last season. The optimist inside me would say a 1-0 Derby win where we grab it in the 85th minute with a scrappy goal from a corner. But I can't see past Huddersfield. And obviously, in Derby's current situation right now, they've got 13 senior players contracted to the club, which is just amateur. So I would say a 2-0 win. But I'll balance it out. I'll go over 1-1 draw.
Right, so Justin's that was Justin there, chatting about Derby. So yeah, if you think it's bad being a Town fan at the moment, I think listening to Justin, you might feel it could be a lot worse, is what I would say. But we'll move on to our other section. You're the boss. So Corberan is out, and Josh Phillips and Brady Frost are in. So we're going to suggest two teams. How we want to line up is not how we think Carlos is going to line up, how we would line up the team against Derby. And I'll come to you first, Josh. What is your formation and who are the players you're going to pick for the starting 11?
Okay, well, based on Sunday, I thought we did all right. So I'm going to stick with the same formation, which I believe was 4-1-4-1. Obviously, there is variations on that and how we line up, but that's what I'm going with. So I would stick with Nichols in goal, the penalty hero. Pippa is not fit, is he? So Turton right back. Centre backs, I would go with Colwill. I think he did pretty well, and Pearson, who is already looking like a bit of a leader for us. And I think, as I've said previously, I think he'll be a big player this season. Left back, Toffolo, Jonathan Hogg in front of those. And then I would obviously have Lewis O'Brien in the midfield as well. And I wouldn't drop Scott High because I thought he had a great game, particularly off the ball. When you've got O'Brien and High, it's a really, really good way to press the opposition, puts them under pressure. So I'd have those two in midfield. Karoma on the left, Dwayne Holmes on the right, who I've picked as my key player, so I can't really drop him, can I? So, yeah, and then up front, this is the one, isn't it? This is a real conundrum because Ward started against Wednesday, did okay. Rhodes came on, had a couple of chances, but I think that's the kind of player Rhodes is going to be for us this season. I think he's going to be more of a end of the game, come on, get us a goal kind of player. So on that basis, I'm going to have to play Danny Ward, aren't I? But it's not a massively convincing pick. But yeah, Ward gets it for me.
Interesting. I agree. My team is basically the same, so like a 4-1, 4-1 or kind of 4-3-3, depending on how you're looking at it. But I still don't think so. Nichols, I think he keeps his place for me. I don't think Pieper's fit, so go with Turton again, and then Pearson and Colwell and Toff. I'm going to be mean and take Scott High out there. Because I basically want Holmes to be in midfield because that's where I think he should play. If he doesn't do it, that's where he wants to play. I keep banging on about this. So Holmes goes there for me. You have Hogg, you have O'Brien. So on right wing, I'm putting Sorba in because I think when Sorba came on in the Wednesday game, he looked good. Obviously, he had that chance where Bannon managed to get it right at the minute, but he looked good. He looked, and Sorba Thomas's set piece delivery is great, and I think that'll be really handy in this game. And I've gone Carrera on the left, and I agree with you. I picked Danny Ward for this. I completely agree with you about Rose. It looks like he's going to go be that guy that comes on and tries, get some chances. And he did have a couple of chances, and I think he looked pretty lively. Because to be honest, I'm still a bit unsold on Rhodes, but I know it's only one game and it was against his former club, but I could see how he'd fit into the team, which is maybe, not what I thought previously. So that's kind of my lineup. I do think, again, I'd like to see Siani come on in this game. I think he looked, exciting when he came on, and the more minutes he can get as well. And I do think Scott High can come on if the midfield's not working. And I think that's it really. I suppose I'll come to you now, Josh. How do you see this game going, really, to close off? And what's your score prediction? You said you're feeling pretty confident for a win.
Yeah, I am feeling confident just because of the opposition we're up against. But saying that, you've got to beware always, haven't you, of the wounded animal. And that's what Derby are at the moment. They're a club that's, in a mess, really, aren't they? But if you look at their squad, what they've got to pick from at the moment, there's no way we shouldn't be beating them, which is quite a bold statement. But it's more a reflection on Derby than Town. I'm not saying Town have an amazing side and they're going to steamroll the division. It's more just the fact in this particular game we happen to be playing Derby, who are in disarray. And yes, they're going to get some players in probably before the game, but it's not a case of just getting players in, putting them straight on the pitch and expecting things to happen. It's going to take time for those players to bed in. It could be a team of strangers, basically. If they get in the likes of Jagielka, Curtis Davis, I know they've been training together and stuff, which will help, but they're still all new players, and it's going to take time for them to gel. So on that basis, I think Town will win, but I think we will struggle to score goals this season. So on that basis, I'm going to say Town are going to win it 2-0, but the second goal will come late on. So I'm going to say Aroma's going to put us 1-0 up, start the second half, and then Rhodes will come on, double the lead right at the end.
Oh, I like it. That's very, very specific, mate. Let's hope it comes to fruition. Yeah, for me, I completely agree. I mean, again, when you listen to all the pre-season predictions, given the state Derby are in, everyone's got them rock bottom. It's hard to disagree with. I think you look at this game, and on paper, to use the classic, I'm going to chuck as many cliches in as I can, but on paper, if you could play any team on the opening day of the season, it would be Derby County. I do think because we're away and because they'll have fans back in, and because there's an expectation that we should win this game, I think it's going to be a bit of a cagey one. Derby, like you say, you talk about the wounded animal. I can see this being a bit of a cagey affair, and I think it's going to have a 1-goal swing. So I'm going to be confident because the season's not started. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Town win. But I do think I could see this game, because we've talked about chance creation before and how we think that's going to be an issue for Town this season. I can see this being 1-1 for quite a while. Maybe even us taking the lead and getting pegged back. I think this is going to be a tough game, but to be honest, the difference I think is going to be we'll look to be on the front foot, and I think it might be the subs that make the difference. Like you say, you talked about Rhodes. I think maybe Rhodes could make a difference if Ward's kind of been running around for 70 minutes. I also think Siani comes on, he could create something. So yeah, 2-1 win I'm going for. But I think might be one of them where if you're in the ground, you're kind of, taking sharp intakes of breath. And if you're, watching it elsewhere, could be a lot of swearing at the TV. So we will see, mate. But we've both gone for a win. So we went for a draw both last week to win on penalties, and look what happened. Yeah, I think you got it spot on, actually, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Nil win on pens. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, great start. Class support from all the fans for you, the classics. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up, mate. So thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back next week to preview Fulham. We should have a guest by then as well. So we will be in touch. But yeah, cheers for listening, and fingers crossed for a town win.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored. It was a heaven dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. Greatest sightseeing